Hi, my name's Olivia, and we'll be reading Miss Jojo is a Yo-Yo, and we'll be reading the first 3 chapters for this video. Here are all the characters: AJ, Alexa, Emily, Neil, Andrea, Ryan, and Michael. First chapter, the FAR test. My name is AJ, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I should watch my mouth. Watch your mouth, AJ, my teacher, Miss Cooper, is always telling me. I don't get it. Grown-ups are always telling me to watch my mouth. How can I watch my mouth? It's right under my eyes. Can't watch it. Can't watch my ears either because they're on the sides of my head. I tried to watch them, but they were too far away. I could watch my nose, but then I'd be cross-eyed. So basically, I can't watch any of the stuff on my face unless I look in the mirror. Point is, I was at elementary school last week when the whole 3rd grade got called down to the all-purpose room. I don't know why we called it the all-purpose room. There were no dolphins in there. So we all lined up and walked 1,100,000 miles. When we finally got to the all-purpose room, I'll never believe who was up on the stage. Dr. Carbles, the president of the Board of Education. He was a mean man who drives a tank to school. What is his problem? Dr. Carbles was standing next to our principal, Miss Klutz, who had no hair at all. He used to have hair, but it fell out a long time ago. Nobody knows why. 10 hut, shouted Dr. Carbles. Why was he counting huts? There weren't any huts in the all-purpose room. What do huts have to do with anything? But everyone stood at attention as if we were soldiers. I have an announcement to make, Dr. Carlos started. I called you in here today to blah, blah, blah. 1 week from today, all the students at elementary school will be taking a standardized test, blah, 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 blah. You 3rd graders will take the fundamental arithmetic reading test. Ugh, I hate standardized tests. Big groans spread across the all-purpose room. Dr. Carbles held up a sign that said fundamental arithmetic reading test. We all started elbowing each other and giggling because we realized that the first letters of the fundamental arithmetic reading test spelled fart. I'm so sorry if I'm saying that word wrong. Anytime anybody says anything that sounded like fart, you'd have to giggle and elbow the person next to you. That's the first rule of being a kid. Quiet, shouted Dr. Carbles. Sit down. We all sat down. Dr. Carbles said fart. I whispered to my friend Michael, who never ties his shoes. What do you think is going to be on the fart? Whispered Ryan. Who will eat anything, even stuff that isn't food? I heard that F-A-R-T is really hard, whispered Neil, who'll be called the new kid, even though he wears clothes. What happens if we fail the F-A-R-T? Whispered Alexa, this girl who rides a skateboard all the time. I'm going to study for the F-A-R-T as soon as I get home from school, whispered Andrea, this annoying girl with curly brown hair. Me too, whispered Emily, who does everything Andrea does. Everything in the all-purpose room was buzzing about the F-A-R-T, but not like bees. That would be weird. Mr. Klotz held up his hand and made a peace sign which meant shut, but everyone ignored him. Stop saying fart, shouted Dr. Carbles. Watch your mouth. Even the teachers were freaking about the fart. Oh no, not the fart, groaned Mr. Hooper. Miss Rupee, our librarian, slapped her own forehead. Mr. Docker, our science teacher, rolled his eyes. Miss Jafe, our vice principal, put her head in her hands. One of our other 3rd grade teachers slumped in her seat. The teachers must hate standardized tests just as much as the kids do. Everyone in the all-purpose room was complaining about the fart. Quiet, shouted Dr. Carbles. You kids had better score high on the fundamental arithmetic reading test, or else blah, 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 blah. Now get out of here. Go back to your classes. Beat it. Okay, Pringle up, everybody, said Mr. Hooper. We lined up like Pringles and marched out of all the porpoise room. Left, right, shouted Dr. Carbles. It took 1,100,000 hours to march back to our classrooms. When we passed by the front office, I saw Dr. Carbles yelling at Mr. Klutz. At least I'll be able to shut down this terrible school, Dr. Carvel said, rubbing his hands together. You'll be, oh, sorry, you'll be finished, Klutz. Finished for good. Bah ha ha ha. Anytime grown-ups rub their hands together and say bah ha ha, you know they want to take over the world. That's the first rule of being a grown-up. But, but, said Mr. Klutz. I giggled because Mr. Klutz said but, which sounds like the but, even though there's only one T. Do you think Dr. Carbles would really shut down our school? Asked Andrea. He can do anything he wants, said Alexa. He's the president of the Board of Education. That's like being a king. Wait a minute, then it hits me. Dr. Carlos shuts down our school. We won't have to go to school anymore. Sounds good. To me, what's the problem? Chapter 2. Practice makes you worse. The next day, Mr. Cooper came running up into the class, all excited. Mr. Cooper thinks he's a superhero when he wears a cape. What's up with that? We have 5 days to get ready for the fart, he announced. We're not going to let Dr. Carvel shut down elementary school. Are we, kids? No, shouted all the girls. Yes, shouted all the boys. We're going to fight for our school, said Mr. Cooper. Isn't that right, kids? Yes, shouted all the girls. No, shouted all the boys. There was some basic disagreement about education between the boys and the girls. You kids are going to crush the FRAT, yelled Mr. Cooper. Crush the fart. Brian chanted as he stopped, crush the fart. We all jumped up and started chanting, crush the fart. Chanting is cool. You should chant stuff whenever you can. That's the first rule of being a kid. Mr. Cooper lowered his voice to whisper like he was going to tell us a big secret. I'm going to tell you a big secret, he whispered. Ooh, I love secrets, said Alexa. I went on the internet, said Mr. Cooper. I downloaded a practice fart. This will help you prepare for the real fart. I love practice tests, said Andrea. Loves any kind of test because it gives her a chance to show everyone how smart she is. Me too, said Emily. Of course. What is their problem? I hate all tests, real or practice. Andrea waved her hand in the air like she was washing a big window with a sponge. Yes, Andrea, asked Mr. Cooper. Is the fart a multiple choice test? She asked. Ugh, I hate multiple choice tests. A multiple choice test is a test that has more than one choice for the answers. So it has the perfect name. They give you the right answer. It's staring in the face, but they throw in a bunch of wrong answers, so you don't know which answer is right one. That's mean. It would be a lot easier if the multiple choice test only gave you one choice. No, Andreas and Mr. Cooper, it's not the multiple choice test. The part is a fill in the blanks test. Oh, good. Filling in the blanks is a lot easier. You can write anything you want. Mr. Cooper told us to take out our number 2 pencils. We all started giggling because Mr. Cooper said number 2. Anytime a grown-up says number 2, you should giggle because we all know what number 2 means. It has nothing to do with pencils. I'm going to pass out, Mr. Cooper said. He's going to pass out, shouted Ryan. Call an ambulance, shouted Michael. I'm going to pass out the practice test, said Mr. Cooper. Oh, said Ryan and Michael. This will be just like a real fart, Mr. Cooper explained as he handed each of us a sheet of paper. The reading questions are on the front, and the arithmetic questions are on the back. You have 10 minutes to complete both sides. Ready, set, go. Mr. Cooper set a timer. I looked at the first paragraph on the sheet. It said, one day, Tony and Maria were walking home from school. They stopped off at a store that was selling bicycles, blah, 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 blah. There was other stuff about Tony and Maria getting into trouble or something. I didn't read the whole thing. Then I asked, what is the main idea of this paragraph? Well, it was easy. I filled in the blank by writing, Tony and Maria should take the bus. Duh, right? After the next question, Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. What is the lesson of this story? It was obvious the lesson in the story is that Jack and Jill were dummies who should get water out of the faucet in their house like normal people. I wrote that down. This is a piece of cake, whispered Ryan, who sat next to me. Huh? What did cake have to do with anything? Ryan's weird. I looked at the next question. It was a really long paragraph. I didn't read every word, but it had something to do with birds and bats. I scanned down to the bottom of the question was, how are bats different from birds? That was easy. I wrote this in the book. I wrote this in the blank. You can't hit a ball with a bird. can't hit a ball with a bird. I looked at the next question. Look at this picture. What is going to happen next? I looked at the picture. It was a drawing of a guy carrying an umbrella, while two kids were tossing a ball back and forth, and some lady was putting food on a picnic table. What? Anything could happen next. How was I supposed to know what was going to happen next? I raised my hand. How are we supposed to know what happens next? I asked Mr. Cooper. Use your imagination, he replied. I used my imagination, filled in the blank. Next, a bear will attack the family and eat them. Instead of the family having a nice picnic, the bear has one. I answered a few more questions like that. The part was easy. I was halfway done. I was crushing it. I gave Ryan a thumbs up. I turned over the sheet to work on the math problems. Ugh, I hate math. First question had a picture of a shoebox with a bunch of spiders in it. The question was, is the number of objects in the box odd or even? Clearly, the answer was odd because it would be odd to put spiders in a shoebox. Who does that? I wrote that down and went to the next question. A pen costs $7. How many pens could you buy for $35? Why would I want to buy pens? I can just borrow a pen from Ryan. He has a lot of pens. Duh, I wrote that down and moved on to the next question. Your favorite TV show is 30 minutes long. How many episodes can you watch in 2 hours? That depends on how many TVs you can watch at the same time. I wrote down the number 10 and moved on to the next question. Sammy has 32 socks, which he puts in pairs. How many pairs of socks can he make? How do I know that? My mom does the laundry. I wrote 0. I look at the next question. Tommy lost 2 teeth. The tooth fairy left 4 dimes, 3 nickels, and 2 quarters under his pillows. How much money did the tooth fairy leave for Tommy? How is a trick question? Everyone knows the tooth fairy doesn't exist. And if she did exist, she wouldn't be so cheap. I wrote that down and went on to the next question. A paper clip is made from 6 inches of wire. How much wire would you need to make 5 paper clips? What? Who makes their own paper clips? Can't you just buy them at the store? I wrote that down and looked at the next question. A new skateboard costs $47.99. Joe has $12.54. How much money does he need to buy a new skateboard? I know a lot about skateboards. The obvious answer was no money. I wrote that Joe should wait till his birthday or until Christmas so he can get the skateboard for free. I looked at the next question. You have 8 plums in a basket. You give some away, leaving 2 plums in the basket. How many plums did you give away? Me, I gave away all the plums. I hate plums. I wrote that down. Looked at the next question. Maggie went trick-or-treating and collected 100 candy bars. Her mom took 79 away to save for later. How many candy bars did Maggie eat on Halloween night? 100, of course. Maggie found out where her mom hid the candy bars and ate them all. I wrote that down. That was the last question on the page. Time hadn't even run out yet. That was how easy the test was. A minute later, Mr. Cooper's alarm buzzed. Pencils down, he said, and he collected the papers. How long will it take to grade the test? Asked Andrea. A few minutes, Cooper replied. He sat at his desk to grade the papers, and you'll never believe who poked his head into the door at that same moment. Nobody. Why would you poke your head through a door? That would hurt, but you'll never believe who poked his head into the doorway. It was Mr. Klutz. So how did you kids do on your practice test? He asked us. We crushed it, I told him. It took 100 million minutes for Mr. Cooper to finish checking our answers. Finally, he looked up. We were all on the edge of our seats. Well, not really. We were sitting in the middle of our seats, but there was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we all would have been electrocuted. But it was really tense. So how did the kids make out? Asked Mr. Klutz. Ugh, gross. We weren't making out. Mr. Cooper didn't look very happy. They all failed the test, he said sadly. What? Even me? Asked Andrea, who never fails anything. The whole class failed, said Mr. Cooper. Everyone started yelling and screaming and shouting and hollering and freaking out. What are we going to do? Shouted Emily. She looked like she was going to cry, like always. I can't believe it, shouted Michael. They're going to shut down the school, shouted Neil. I'm going to lose my job, shouted Mr. Cooper. Me too, shouted Mr. Klutz. My life is ruined, shouted Andrea. It's going to look back on my record, shouted Andrea. I won't get into Harvard. I looked out into the hallway and you'll never believe who was standing there watching all of this. It was Dr. Carbles. He had a big smile on his face. He was rubbing his hands together. Chapter 3, getting Zenergized, and I'm going to take a quick pause. Okay, we're back. Chapter 3. Oh no, did it restart? No, it probably did. Okay. There were 4 days left until the fart, and everyone was stressed about it. That's when Mr. Klutz came in to visit our class again. He's with our school counselor, Dr. Brad, who had crazy hair and looked like a mad scientist in a horror movie. Dr. Carbles wants to make you nervous so you'll fail a fart, said Mr. Klutz, so I thought Dr. Brad might be able to help. The whole school is feeling so much stress, said Dr. Brad, who talks funny. We all need to calm down about these tests. Dr. Brad thinks he can help us relax, said Mr. Klutz. Yes, I want to try something, said Dr. Brad. Sit down, Mr. Klutz. Mr. Klutz sat in a chair. Dr. Brad took a shiny metal watch out of his pocket. It was attached to a chain. He dangled the watch in front of Mr. Klutz and began slowly swinging it back and forth. Look as he's very cozy, said Dr. Brad softly. It will help you to be calm. Are you hypnotizing me? Said Mr. Klutz as he stared at the watch. Yes, said Dr. Brad. See the shiny watch? Steady and he's sailing back and forth. Yeah, let's feel a little heavy, yes. Heavy, Mr. Klutz mumbled. I know about hypnosis. People do anything when they're hypnotized. One time I hypnotized Andrea. She climbed up to the roof of the school and screamed at the police when they tried to get her to come down. It's the greatest day of my life. Sarah's watch and he's saving, said Dr. Brad. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, repeated Mr. Klutz like a robot. Feeling sleepy? Asked Dr. Brad. Sleepy, moaned Klutz. Soon you will be in a deep sleep, said Dr. Brad. You will be relaxed, you will be calm, you will stop stressing about the test. Relaxed, calm, moaned Mr. Klutz. It's working, shouted Ryan. He's hypnotized Mr. Klutz. That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the school, history of the world happened. Mr. Klutz suddenly stood up, flapped his arms, started to cluck like a chicken. What, said Mr. Klutz. What the are you doing? Asked Mr. Brad. I'm a chicken, shouted Mr. Klutz, running around the class and flapping his arms. Buck, where can I lay my eggs? Mr. Klutz is nuts, Michael shouted. Mr. Klutz ran a few laps around the classroom looking for a place to lay his eggs. Then all of a sudden he stopped acting like a chicken. He looked like himself again. I wasn't in a trance, he told us. I wasn't hypnotized for a second. I was just kidding. It only worked on some people, said Dr. Brad. Exactly, said Mr. Klutz. Even if it had worked, it'd be impossible to hypnotize the whole school. But I have another idea that might help lower everyone's stress level. He went out to the hall for a minute. When he came back, a lady was with him. She had long black hair and she was wearing shoes. This is Miss Jojo, Mr. Klutz announced. She's a wellness expert. She takes wells, I asked. No, dumbhead, said Andrea. She makes people feel well. I knew that. I lied. I was going to say something mean to Andrea, but I couldn't come up with anything good. Namaste, said Miss Jojo. She bowed to us with her hands pressed together. Huh? We all said, which is also huh backwards. Namaste, said Miss Jojo slowly. That means the light in me bows to the light in you. Why don't you have shoes on? Asked Michael. Shoes are jail cells for the feet, Miss Jojo replied. That's weird. Miss Jojo had a machine with her. It looked sort of like a big toaster. She plugged it into a wall socket. What does that thing do? Asked Ram. This is a mood meter, she replied. It reads the stress level of the people in a room. Miss Jojo turned on the mood meter and a few seconds it beeped. Ooh, she said, the stress level in this room is over 100. That's very high. You kids must be really stressed out. Yes, said Mr. Klutz. Everyone is on edge because they have to take the fundamental arithmetic reading test in a few days. If our school doesn't do well, added Mr. Cooper, the president of the board of education is going to shut it down. Can you help us? I'll try, said Miss Jojo. I've never worked with children before, but I'll do my best. Let's do a little exercise. Everyone close your shoes and take off your eyes. Huh? We all asked. Oh, I mean, take off your shoes and close your eyes, said Miss Jojo. Oh, that's different. We took off our shoes and closed our eyes. Now we take a deep breath, said Miss Jojo. We all take deep breaths, even the grown-ups. Hold it and let it out, she said softly. In and out, in and out. Already knew how to breathe, I said. If I didn't know how to breathe, I'd be dead. Nobody laughed at my joke. They were all breathing in and out. Now picture a beam of energy, said Miss Jojo. Rid of it out of your body up into the air and towards the stars. I pretended I was running a beam of energy out of my body into outer space. It was cool. Very good, said Miss Jojo. Now repeat after me. After me, we all repeated. No, said Miss Jojo. I mean, repeat after me. After me, after me. We all repeated after me, 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 after me. We repeated after me for like 1,100,000 minutes. Finally, Miss Jojo said we could stop repeating after me and open our eyes. How do you feel? Asked Miss Jojo. I feel more relaxed already, said Mr. Klutz. Me too, said Ryan. Me three, said Neil. Me four, said Alexa. In case you were wondering, everybody said they felt more relaxed. Miss Jojo went out over to look at the mood meter. Look, she said, your stress level is down to 94. That's still very high, but it's a big improvement. If we can get your stress level down to 50, you'll be really relaxed. Fantastic, examined Mr. Klutz. What do you call that breathing exercise? Miss Jojo replied, I call it synergizing. Right, that will be it for today. We'll read the other chapters later on. I hope you enjoyed.